Theravada, what is Vajrayana, and how did this spread, how did it go to China, what kind of problems did it face in China, and what is the difference between Chinese Buddhism and what we call Indian Buddhism. It's not Indian Buddhism, but the way the Indians think about how it affected the Chinese way of thinking. Alright? So we'll try and put all these together. But to begin at the beginning, Buddhism, yes, Buddhism started in India. Buddhism was started by the Buddha, but our starting point is not the Buddha. Our starting point is 2000 years before the Buddha. That means by the time the Buddha was born in India, these thoughts had already been very, very well developed. Right? And in India, 4 great religions grew up. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. 4 great religions grew up in India. Alright? But all these 4 religions have the same base. And that is karma, samsara, jnana, and mukti. All the 4 religions believe that our actions are responsible for our being reborn over and over again in samsara, but with wisdom and knowledge, jnana, we can attain freedom. We can attain the end. Mukti means to end. So the end of samsara can be attained. So all these 4 religions based on that. That is where the resemblance ends. Many people tell us that Hinduism, Buddhism grew out of Hinduism. That is not true. Alright? Yes, the soil in which the Buddha could think was this. But it is like taking one big pot and planting one mango tree and planting one papaya tree in the same pot. The 2 will grow up from the same soil, but the mango tree will never produce papayas. The papaya tree is not the mango tree, the mango is not the papaya tree, but they come from the same soil. Like that, Buddhism is a parallel development. Buddhism is not a carryover from Hinduism. There are huge differences between Buddhism. Most important is the Buddha never believed in a soul, whereas Hinduism depends on a soul. They talk about Atma, we talk about Anatma. Okay? Right. Now, but where did these things develop? They developed about 1700 BCE in, this is India, okay? And around here is where Afghanistan is, Afghanistan, Pakistan. And there is 5 rivers that start here. This is called the Punjab. And Buddhism grew up here, the opposite side, as basically as a reaction. The Buddha was a Kshatriya, alright? But these were dominated by the Brahmins. Okay? And so it came up as a kind of a reaction to Brahmanism. Okay? Right. What was it? So this is about 1700 years before Jesus Christ. So about 4,000 years ago. Okay? The Hindus had already begun this idea that all our actions are caused by ignorance, because we do not know. It's called Maya. Because we don't understand that, I'm talking Hindu now, we don't understand that we come from God, we are separated from God, our body, the soul is trapped in the body, we suffer because of that, and therefore our purpose is to reach God again. The soul must reach God. Okay? Now, in India, during the time of the Buddha, This is one of the great things of India then and today. The freedom of religion, the freedom of thought. The Buddha, when the Buddha was born, there were 62 religions in India. One religion said that everything is created by God. God created heaven, hell, earth, human beings. If you are good, you go to heaven. If you are bad, you go to hell. This is not something that the Christians came up with. It's the Hindus came up with this 2,000 years before Jesus Christ. On the one side, that the world is created by God. At the other extreme, yeah, there were people in India who were saying there is no such thing as God. You are born because of an accident. You are born because your parents had nothing better to do. You die because you stop breathing. That's it. So you go ahead and do what you like. Alright? On the one hand, they were called the eternalists. On the other hand, they were called the nihilists. Eternalists go to heaven and live with God forever. Nihilists, there's no God, nothing. You stop breathing, you can jump out your body, finish. No recycling even. They finish it. Don't talk about it no more. But in between there were 60 variations, altogether 62. It is not by accident that the Buddha was born in India at that time. The Buddha chose to be born there so that he could study all these religions. He spent 6 years studying all these religions. They were great religions, and again I was saying the beauty of India. Although there were 62 religions, no one was allowed to condemn anybody else. They argued like hell, they argued, but nobody could be killed or hanged or even for changing religion. If I don't suddenly stop believing in you, I go the other side, that's it. And even today in India, that's the mentality. You see? And so the Buddha studied all, he rejected all. And he came up with his own understanding. That happened on Vesak Day. And what was this major understanding? Number one, there is no God that creates us or anything. The gods did not create a body and a soul. Yeah? What we call a soul is a set of processes, including consciousness. The body is also a set of processes which can be recycled. Okay? And put the two together, they are all processes. There is nothing there which is permanent or real. This the Buddha discovered. Right? The Buddha agreed that there is suffering. Right? Then the Buddha discovered that no amount of ritual, I'm not saying that Sister Paru wasted her time, but no amount of bowing and praying to the Buddha and Namo Buddhaya, Namo Sanghaya, all of this is only step one. After that, you got to start using your mind. If you advance enough not to do all this, but you can go straight into understanding, that's perfect. Okay, you don't need all this. Okay, that the Buddha said in the first sermon. By the way, next full moon, if you can go to, I don't know whether you are going to have it here, but any of the big temples, they will be reciting the first sermon, because that the Buddha recited that 2 months after his enlightenment. Vesak Day, the second full moon after Vesak Day, they will recite the Buddha's first sermon. In fact, that's the beginning of the expansion of Buddhism. He becomes a Buddha, then he decides, I am going to teach people. And he goes and looks for the 5 ascetics, and he begins to teach them. Then what he teaches them is this. First, that's actually the course outline for the entire teaching that he went through for 45 years. First, that's the beginning of expansion of Buddhism. He teaches first and foremost, do not rely on rituals to save you. The Hindus were doing all the rituals without developing the mind. nice little story where the Buddha, I think